As breaking this minute, Indian woman Dr Uzma takes refuge in Indian High Commission in Islamabad. She has filed an application in a local court alleging that she was kidnapped and physically abused. She apparently went to Pakistan for a trip, but her immigration papers were forcibly taken away and she was forced into a marriage with a man named Tahir. He allegedly physically abused her as well. She has now sought refuge at the Indian embassy there in Pakistan and has now also appealed for repatriation. News that's coming in right now, breaking inputs of this lady, an Indian Dr Uzma, who has taken refuge at the High Commission there in Islamabad in Pakistan. She's filed an application in a local court alleging that she was kidnapped and physically abused by a man and was forcibly taken away, and she was forced into a marriage also with this particular man named Tahir. Today she has sought the custody, a refuge there at the Indian High Commission there in Islamabad in Pakistan. This man Tahir allegedly physically abused her as well. Let's go across to my colleague Meghna Rekha joining us with further information. Meghna, big news that's coming in. What more can you share with us?
Well, in fact, Akshay, what we've managed to access is the complaint letter which has been filed by Uzma at the local court. Let me read out excerpts, and this makes it amply clear how this seems to be a very serious case of abduction, of forcible detainment, and of course physical abuse as well. This lady Uzma is now appealing to get repatriated back to India. In fact, this is a complaint letter. I'm going to read out excerpts from it. It says, I am Uzma. I met Tahir Khan in Malaysia. We met there and we became friends. I stayed in Malaysia for approximately 2 months, and we used to meet him wherever Tahir talked to me there. He was very soft-spoken and a nice person, used to speak to me in English. I thought he was from a good family. After that, she came back to India, she says. And she says, when I came back and got back in touch with Tahir, he told me to come to Pakistan. And that's where he wanted me to meet his family. He sent me the sponsor letter and I got a visa from the Pakistan High Commission after being forced by Tahir. Then I came to Pakistan as soon as I crossed the Wagah border. So essentially she's saying that she didn't come to get married per se to Tahir, but then he insisted on her meeting her family, which is why she had gone to Pakistan. She crossed via the Wagah border. She goes on to say that I was picked by Tahir in a car, and after traveling a little distance, he told me that he lives in a mountainous area and he gave me some medicine. After eating the medicine, I became unconscious and could not see the rest of the journey. So essentially, she was drugged and then kidnapped. She says, when I woke up at 10 p.m. in the night, it was at the door of his residence. It was a strange village with strange people. Tahir's families did not know Hindi either. I was unable to understand what was happening around me. That night, Tahir sexually exploited and tortured me. He threatened to kill me as well if I did not sign the nikah nama the very next day. So essentially, she was then forced to marry Tahir. She goes on to say they showed me a gun and threatened me. These people always carry guns. She goes on to say the next day they brought me to a dirty and strange house, and they took my signatures on the nikah nama at gunpoint. Now this is going to be crucial. She says that it was a forcible marriage at gunpoint. They then took me back to their house. They made me marry forcefully, for which I was not mentally ready as soon as marriage was done. Then they started torturing me mentally. They were beating me. They made me do all the household work as well.
Okay.
Every morning till evening, every evening, Tahir would sexually assault me as well.
Okay.
Currently, as we speak, she's sought refuge and she's currently in the Indian High Commission in Islamabad, and she has sought to be repatriated.
Right. Meghna, thanks very much for taking us to the entire ordeal of what Dr Uzma is now telling us in that letter, of course, saying that she was drugged and then kidnapped and then sexually abused there in Pakistan by a man named Tahir. Let me also pull in Dr Zeenat Shaukat Ali joining us over the telephone line. Dr Zeenat Ali, this lady, Dr Uzma, is now in the custody, of course, of the Indian High Commission there in Islamabad. What an ordeal she has really undergone and survived out of it.
I think, this man is brutal, barbaric, and even diabolical in his intention. This is not the way to treat a woman. And first of all, let me tell you that any marriage that is made under duress and under, in force is an invalid marriage under Muslim law. So she has to explore that also, you see. And I'm glad that she has gone to the Indian embassy. And such people have to be given the severest punishment in their own country. Because this is not the way for men, Muslim men, to behave with Muslim women. They spread Islamophobia. They spoil the name of Islam. Islam has never permitted such awful things. And such people... such people have to be given the severest punishment. This is what my immediate reaction is. And, Dr. Uzma should be transported and brought safely back
Yes.
And that marriage, according to me, should be null and void because it was made under duress. She does not, I think.
Yes, she was made to sign the papers under. She was made to sign the paper under duress, and of course at gunpoint, as my colleague Meghna is telling us, reading out the contents of the letter. Dr. Zinat Ali, if you can stay on the phone line, we'll appreciate my colleague Geeta Mohan, Foreign Affairs Editor, also joining us with further details. Geeta, how are we taking this forward in terms of the lady being at the Indian High Commission in Islamabad? Are there chances of her being repatriated anytime soon?
Well, for now, the Indian High Commission is looking at all the details of the case. The fact that a case has been filed is the reason why she might have to stay because for some time because she has to be produced in front of the magistrate, which is what has happened now. Now, Akshay, what we're looking at is for the magistrate to give a clearance, a go-ahead, given that in that very same complaint, she has very clearly spelled out that it was outside the Indian High Commission that her immigration documents were snatched from her hands by her husband. Now, without the immigration documents, to leave the country is going to be difficult, and only once the magistrate clears and gives a go-ahead signal to Uzma, she'd be able to get either a copy of the documents again or a fresh exit document.
Okay, Geeta, I'm sorry for interrupting you there. Just stay with me, please, because we also have another women rights activist joining us from Pakistan over the telephone line, Tahir Abdullah. Ms. Tahir Abdullah, your first response to the story we are tracking of this Dr. Uzma, who was drugged, kidnapped, forcibly made to marry this man, Tahir, at a gunpoint. Now, of course, she has sought refuge at the Indian High Commission in Islamabad. What do you have to tell us about the story and your first reaction? Tahir Abdullah, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. And
yes,
I'm speaking in my personal individual capacity, of course, not representing any organization here. I don't know enough about the case, only what has been reported in the newspapers this morning. So I can only go by what I've read in the newspaper reports. I think that it is extremely important for her to get the services of a lawyer, a Pakistani lawyer in Pakistan, so that the law must be followed and be allowed to take its course. Simultaneously, I think she needs to contact some human rights organizations such as the Human Rights Commission of Pakistan and the National Commission on Human Rights and the National Commission on the Status of Women. We have mechanisms and entities in place that look at violations of human rights and doing things by force and by coercion. That is simply not the law or the constitution of Pakistan. And I feel very strongly that if her rights have been violated, first of all, it is up to a magistrate or a sessions court judge or a district court judge to look into the matter, and for the police, for the law enforcement agencies to do some kind of an investigation to find out exactly what the situation is. But I feel strongly that she needs to get assistance from formal entities such as National Commissions on Human Rights as well as NGOs such as the Human Rights Commission of Pakistan, which is a non-government
organization. We can hope that there will be some assistance and help provided to this lady, Dr. Uzma, who's of course now at the Indian High Commission as we are tracking. But appreciate your response, Tahir Abdullah. Thank you very much for speaking with us. Let me also bring in Aslan Bhatti, Pakistan journalist, joining us over the phone line. Aslan Bhatti, this is a very shocking piece of news that's coming of how this woman was first drugged, kidnapped, and then forced to marry at a gunpoint. She's now taken refuge at the Indian High Commission's embassy in Islamabad in Pakistan. What more can you tell us about this man? What is the news really about Tahir right now, the accused? Mr. Aslan Bhatti, that was for you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Please go ahead, sir.
Dr. Uzma herself married the person who you are naming. Pakistan government has nothing to do with it. One thing. Number two, now he wants some legal assistance that can be provided by the government of Pakistan if required. Already she is in Indian High Commission in Islamabad, and all the legal formalities will be completed and will be given to her, no matter what citizenship she got and what was the actual case was. But one thing is very clear, that government of Pakistan is giving her full legal assistance, what she wanted in court and what she want to get rid of the person, or she wanted to stay with him.
Okay, no, very clearly in the affidavit, Mr. Bhatti, she says that she doesn't want to be with this man because he's tortured her, sexually abused her, married her at gunpoint, is what the affidavit really states right now. Just stay with me, please, Mr. Bhatti. Appreciate you joining us. I have the soundbite there. We'd like to play the reaction of Dr. Uzma, the lady herself, who is now at the Indian High Commission there in Islamabad. Let's take a listen in.
पे साइन करवाया है, वहाँ पर जाने के बाद अपने घर पे जाने के बाद बहुत ज्यादा मेंटली, फिजिकली एंड सेक्सुअली बहुत ज्यादा टॉर्चर किया है। गन पॉइंट पर निकाह कराया, बहुत मुश्किल से उसको लालच देकर मैं यहाँ हाई कमीशन तक पहुँची हूँ कि मुझे सेव किया जाए, और हाई कमीशन में मैं अपनी मर्जी से रुकी हूँ, कोई फोर्स नहीं है मुझ पर, जैसे कि इन्होंने फोर्स किया हो मुझे कि आप यहाँ पर रुको, अपनी मर्जी से। हाई कमीशन में मैं जब तक रहूंगी जब तक दिल्ली में सेफली ना पहुँच जाऊँ। हाई कमीशन से मैं बाहर नहीं निकलूंगी।
पाकिस्तान आपने पूरा यू टर्न ले लिया है। पहले आपका मौका कुछ और था, अब चेंज हो गया, स्टेटमेंट हो गया। चलिए निकल लेते। थैंक यू।
सबको मिलेगा, कमॉन। वाघा बॉर्डर से दिया है उसने, स्लीपिंग पिल दी है मुझे, और मैं रास्ते में सो गई, मुझे नहीं पता कि मुझको कहाँ ले जा रहा है। उसने गन पॉइंट पर मुझसे निकाहनामे पे साइन करवाया है, वहाँ पर जाने के बाद अपने घर पे जाने के बाद बहुत ज्यादा मेंटली, फिजिकली एंड सेक्सुअली बहुत ज्यादा टॉर्चर किया है। गन पॉइंट पर निकाह कराया, बहुत मुश्किल से उसको लालच देकर मैं यहाँ हाई कमीशन तक पहुँची हूँ कि मुझे सेव किया जाए, और हाई कमीशन में मैं अपनी मर्जी से रुकी हूँ, कोई फोर्स नहीं है मुझ पर, जैसे कि इन्होंने फोर्स किया हो मुझे कि आप यहाँ पर रुको, अपनी मर्जी से। हाई कमीशन में मैं जब तक रहूंगी जब तक दिल्ली में सेफली ना पहुँच जाऊँ। हाई कमीशन से मैं बाहर नहीं निकलूंगी।
पाकिस्तान आपने पूरा यू टर्न ले लिया है। पहले आपका मौका कुछ और था, अब चेंज हो गया, स्टेटमेंट हो गया। चलिए निकल लेते।
Okay, let me go back to Mr. Aslan Bhatti once again. We heard what the woman is saying. She is extremely scared at this given point of time. She refuses to come out of the Indian High Commission. She says only goes to show that yes, there has been a lot of torture meted out to this lady.
Of course, when a two persons entered into a contract marriage, the third person can do nothing in it. Dr. Uzma got married on her will or against her will, but she married the person. Now she doesn't want to live with him. There is no reason to stop any law of the land in Pakistan can stop her from getting divorce or getting separation from that person who tortured him or abused her. There is no harm in it.
Okay, but Dr. Bhatti, what about the man? Any sort of news or any investigative agencies going ahead trying to get his version, arresting him for all that he's inflicted upon this lady? What do we know on that front?
Yeah, the investigating agency was after the person as soon as they got the complaint lodged by Dr. Uzma against that person. The investigating agency, our police, was after him, and soon he will be behind the bars, and then the investigation will be completed against whether the Dr. Uzma was telling the truth or she is not telling the truth. Then there will be final report came out, so that till then we have to wait till the arrest of Mr. Tahir.
Okay, Dr. Aslan Bhatti, I will request you to stay with us because there are many more questions that need to be answered on this story. We'll appreciate if you can stay with us. We're taking a big story coming in from Pakistan right now, where an Indian woman, Dr. Uzma, has taken refuge in the Indian High Commission in Islamabad. She has filed an application in a local court alleging that she was kidnapped, drugged and physically abused and then made to marry at gunpoint. She apparently went to Pakistan for a trip, but her immigration papers were forcibly taken away and she was forced to marry a man named Tahir. He allegedly physically abused her as well. She has now sought refuge in the Indian Commission in Islamabad and appeals for repatriation. That's the news that's coming in. Let me also go across to our Foreign Affairs editor, Geeta Mohan, joining us for more. Geeta, how is the Ministry of External Affairs reacting to this? What next? Are we going to be seeing this lady, Dr. Uzma, coming back to the country?
Well, Akshay, the Ministry of External Affairs, through the Indian High Commission, very promptly acted on this entire incident, the case that is unfolding in Islamabad. The Indian High Commission not only ensured that she does not leave the Indian High Commission building if she does not wish to, given that she very clearly said that she was not just assaulted, physically abused, but there was a threat to her, and she would not wish to leave the premises of the Indian High Commission. They allowed her to stay there, gave her all the kind of assistance that's required, intimated the authorities, the Pakistan authorities, that there is an individual who has been wrong, is in Islamabad, and did not have immigration papers because there was right outside the Indian High Commission in Islamabad, and need to prepare for the
Geeta, we seem to be having trouble with your audio line. We'll try and connect with you once again as you bring us further information on this particular case of this Indian woman seeking refuge in the embassy there in Pakistan. This is the latest controversy one can really see between both the nations. This lady, Dr Uzma from India, says that she was forced to marry this man Tahir. But let me bring in more inputs from Pakistan. The editor of Dunya News joining us right now, Mr. Aslan Bhatti as well. Mr. Aslan Bhatti, the question is that this lady, of course, right now in distress. She seems to be fearing for her life. She says she will not step out of the Indian High Commission. What more can you tell us about this man named Tahir? And where is he at the moment? What efforts are being made to try and actually arrest this man?
Tahir was the resident of Bonaire, a bordering district in KPK, and the lady Dr Uzma clearly told her that Tahir allegedly kidnapped her and brought her to Pakistan, and Tahir's father and his first cousin was witness to their nikah ceremony held in Bonaire. When Dr Uzma reached the residence of Tahir, then she came to know that Tahir was already married and he had 3 children. Then she talked to Tahir and asked him about his first marriage. He refused. He said there is nothing harm in it for getting married twice, thrice, or fourth. Then Dr Uzma, just in the garb of that she want to buy something from the market, she went out, and later she traveled all the way from Bonaire to Islamabad, and then got refuge in Indian High Commission in Islamabad. And now the police, where the application was already moved by Dr Uzma in a local police station, and local police was after Tahir. He might be arrested in next couple of hours, and then the actual case. How did he manage to bring her here and nikah and entered into nikah with her forcibly or unforcibly? This is not cleared yet, because Tahir was not arrested. When the Tahir is arrested, then the actual story will be
the other side. The other side will of course be known. But this girl in the affidavit being filed in the court correctly maintains that she was first drugged, kidnapped, forcibly married with a gunpoint, and then sexually abused time and again by Tahir. Now, of course, she's taken refuge. But Mr. Aslan Bhatti also explained to us, under the law, if a marriage has taken place in the scenario that it has under gunpoint, under duress, is this marriage even valid?
No. It is not marriage according to Pakistan Islamic laws and according to the Constitution of Pakistan. This marriage is not at all valid, because there is no nikah on gunpoint to be taken place or is taken place as the consent of both groom and bride is always there in the presence of witnesses who also clearly told the nikah khan, that is Maulana or Maulvi, that the nikah was with both the consent, with the common consent and general consent of groom and bride, and there is no force behind it. They entered into the nikah ceremony or marriage contract on their own sweet will.
But of course that's one version. We have to wait and see what Tahir says, because meanwhile the lady over here, Dr Uzma, continues to maintain that she was forced to marry this man at a gunpoint, and of course the investigative authorities are looking out. You are telling us, Mr. Aslan Bhatti, for Tahir, they're about to make the arrest in a couple of hours. We'll of course wait and watch for that story, but appreciate you joining us, Mr. Aslan Bhatti. If you can stay on the line, would like it.
Woman, Dr Uzma, has taken refuge in the Indian High Commission in Islamabad. She's filed an application in a local court alleging she was kidnapped and physically abused. She apparently went to Pakistan for a trip, but her immigration papers were forcibly taken away, and she was forced into a marriage with a man named Tahir. He allegedly physically abused her as well. She has now sought refuge in the Indian embassy and appeals for repatriation. Arsalan Bhatti, Pakistani journalist, joining us on the phone line. Mr. Bhatti, this is a shocking story. What is your first comment, sir?
Yeah, this is shocking, but when two people entered into a marriage, what I said earlier, how could anybody else, you and me, comment on this? Because they entered into a marriage rather forcibly or unforcibly, or on their sweet consent or their sweet will. That will be traced or could be surfaced later on when the Tahir is arrested. But when two persons entered into a marriage contract, they obviously have something in their heart, so that's why they entered into a marriage. But
Mr. Bhatti, the information coming out is, sir, that she was kidnapped, and that's why she was forced into a marriage. It wasn't that she, married of her own accord or was unhappy after the marriage. She is claiming that she was kidnapped. So this is a case of kidnapping and forced marriage.
One thing is very clear, that she is not a kid, that a person of about 18 years or so plus age can be kidnapped so easily, and he can't know what she was eating, what she was given.
Well, Mr. Bhatti, you never know. The crime rates one is hearing in Pakistan are quite high, sir, it seems. But please stay with us, because we want to just listen into this woman. We want to just listen into what she's had to say, and then I'll come back to you.
पे साइन करवाया है, वहाँ पर जाने के बाद अपने घर पे जाने के बाद बहुत ज़्यादा मेंटली, फिजिकली एंड सेक्सुअली बहुत ज़्यादा टॉर्चर किया है। गन पॉइंट पर निकाह कराया, बहुत मुश्किल से उसको लालच देकर मैं यहाँ हाई कमीशन तक पहुँची हूँ कि मुझे सेव किया जाए, और हाई कमीशन में मैं अपनी मर्जी से रुकी हूँ, कोई फोर्स नहीं है मुझ पर, जैसे कि इन्होंने फोर्स किया हो मुझे कि आप यहाँ पर रुको, अपनी मर्जी से। हाई कमीशन में मैं जब तक रहूंगी जब तक दिल्ली में सेफली ना पहुँच जाऊँ। हाई कमीशन से मैं बाहर नहीं निकलूंगी। पाकिस्तान क्या बनाया गया था?
आपने पूरा यू टर्न ले लिया है। पहले आपका मौका कुछ और था, अब चेंज हो गया, स्टेटमेंट हो गया। चलिए निकल लेते। थैंक यू।
Arsalan Bhatti is still with us on the phone line. Mr. Bhatti, you've heard the soundbite of the woman there. What do you really have to say after that? Because as you are saying, but why you doubt? I also want to ask you, Mr. Bhatti, why are you doubting the woman's claim already? You are very hurriedly doubting her claim.
No, I'm not doubting the claim. But when a person, she is not a kid. I am just taking another point, that I'm raising a point that she is a big lady. She is mentally, she is fit. She is very much in good health. How could a person, if gave her any addiction, because she went on her will with the person named Tahir, then she did what she was saying, that she was tortured. All right, she had been tortured. All right, then she said she was forcibly forced to enter into a nikah with Tahir. Okay, I agree. Then she said she was abused. That too I agree. But she is, on the other side of the picture is that she is not a kid. How could a person who know himself and know herself to be a sane person eat a drug, what was given to her, what was eating her, she was saying that she was forcibly, the person was forcibly took her and allegedly kidnapped her. In Pakistan, there are so many rights of the women that you can't imagine. Especially in KPK, especially in Punjab, there was a strict law that you can't even slap your own wife now. There's a law. You can't slap because they have full rights of women rights. There's a law already.
This is shocking, but this is shocking. Here she is claiming that she was given no rights. She was kidnapped, physically abused, forced into a marriage, and the man was physically abusing her repeatedly. I mean, this man should be booked immediately, Mr. Bhatti. He has raped a woman and he has assaulted her. She may be an Indian national. And that seems to be a crime these days in Pakistan, to be an Indian national, to be a member of the minority community.
No. There is no crime. The first thing should be clear in your mind that this crime is against.
This is yet another example of atrocities on a minority in Pakistan, Mr. Bhatti.
This is not minority. There is no case of minority. This is no case of that she is an Indian citizen. The case is very clear. If a woman was tortured by a person, whether he or she is Hindu, whether he or she is Sikh, whether he or she is from Christian community, whether Buddhist, whether anybody else, whether Muslim. Same law applies on a person who tortured her. One thing is very, very, very clear. There is no second opinion about it. If she is tortured, first she is woman, then her nationality could be seen. Or
do you, Mr. But yeah. No, yeah. That's a valid point. That's a valid point you're making. Do you, though, two last questions to you. Do you believe that A, there are fit grounds for her to be repatriated back to India? And B, do you believe that this man must be immediately arrested and called in for questioning by the police?
You are talking about this. I will let me answer your second question first.
I'm saying, do you believe that it's a fit case for repatriation back to India, which she is seeking from the Indian embassy, and B, that this man who she is accusing of assault and forced marriage should be questioned and immediately booked by the Pakistani police?
Number one, that she should be repatriated if she desired so. If she wanted to go back, there is no harm in it. There will be no stoppage for any kind for her, or there will be no hurdle in giving her back to India. Number one. Number two, the man who allegedly tortured her, if that proved after arresting namely Tahir, if he is proved, he should be given severe punishment. What the lady desired. If she wanted to forgive him, pardon him, this is up to her. If she wanted her to be given a severe punishment, that should be given. This is the law of our land, that there is a crime against women will and would not be tolerated in any cost, in any place in the world.
Right, and Mr. Bhatti, finally, you are saying that we must question her claims as well. You still believe that? You're still holding on to that thought?
Pardon?
Thought that we must re-verify her claims? Her claims must be re-verified?
Yes, it should be. It should be. It should be. What was she was saying, that she was entered into a forced marriage. After arresting Tahir, that should be verified from him, and if it happens so, what I said earlier, the person should not be spared even an inch.
Okay.
That is one thing is sure.
Okay, so you're saying, yeah, no, that's a valid point you're making, Arsalan Bhatti. Thank you very much for speaking with us. Please do stay on to us. Do stay with us. Let's get another comment coming in from Nilanjana Chakrabarti, well-known activist who joins us as well on NewsX. Nilanjana Chakrabarti, what is your first reaction when you hear the shocker being reported from Pakistan?
Actually, I'm a little, I'm a little shocked, and also I don't know how to react to this. This is like really one-of-a-kind case. What I really feel after hearing the gentleman also, I think it really needs to be investigated, both the points of view. I think both points of view need to be investigated, one, and if the woman, as she has said, that she's been tortured and, she's been fooled into marriage, etc., then I think the Indian embassy should take it up very, very sternly. And I think also that in the past, Sushma Swaraj has taken up cudgels and, has helped out many different kinds of cases, I would put it that way. So I don't see any reason why this case cannot be investigated properly. And if found guilty, this man definitely needs to be punished, and very, very severe punishment needs to be meted out to him. And the woman, if it's her choice, as he rightly said, she can be brought back to back to India. But there is a big question which looms large: is that even today, why are women getting fooled? That is my big question. When you are befriending somebody, or if there is some kind of marriage, there needs to be a proper check, a background check. Why this is not happening? I mean, time and again, this is of course an India-Pakistan story which is unfolded, but on FBs and on FB and other places as well, women are getting fooled, and they land up meeting these people.
No, that's a valid point you're making. So you're saying, of course, it must be looked at very seriously indeed by the authorities there. We'll have to leave with that. Nilanjan Chakrabarti and Arsalan Bhatti, thank you for joining us with your comments and your perspectives there. We're back when Indian woman Dr Uzma has taken refuge in the Indian High Commission in Islamabad. She has filed an application in a local court alleging she was kidnapped and physically abused. She apparently went to Pakistan for a trip, but her immigration papers were forcibly taken away and she was forced into a marriage with a man named Tahir. He allegedly physically abused her as well. She's, of course, now sought refuge in the Indian embassy and appealed for repatriation.
पे साइन करवाया है, वहाँ पर जाने के बाद अपने घर पे जाने के बाद बहुत ज़्यादा मेंटली, फिजिकली एंड सेक्सुअली बहुत ज़्यादा टॉर्चर किया है। गन पॉइंट पर निकाह कराया, बहुत मुश्किल से उसको लालच देकर मैं यहाँ हाई कमीशन तक पहुँची हूँ कि मुझे सेव किया जाए, और हाई कमीशन में मैं अपनी मर्जी से रुकी हूँ, कोई फोर्स नहीं है मुझ पर। जैसे कि इन्होंने फोर्स किया हो मुझे कि आप यहाँ पर रुको, अपनी मर्जी से। हाई कमीशन में मैं जब तक रहूंगी जब तक दिल्ली में सेफली ना पहुँच जाऊँ। हाई कमीशन से मैं बाहर नहीं निकलूंगी।
पाकिस्तान क्या कहकर बनाया गया था? आपने पूरा यू टर्न ले लिया है, पहले आपका मौका कुछ और था, अब चेंज हो गया, स्टेटमेंट हो गया, चलिए निकल लेते। थैंक यू, थैंक यू।
Well, this is a story that you are seeing first right here on NewsX, where this Indian woman, Dr Uzma, has now sought refuge in Indian High Commission in Islamabad. This is an absolute shocker coming in from Pakistan, where this woman is claiming forced marriage, forced kidnapping and abuse after that as well. Well, she of course is now seeking repatriation.
पे साइन करवाया है, वहाँ पर जाने के बाद अपने घर पे जाने के बाद बहुत ज़्यादा मेंटली, फिजिकली एंड सेक्सुअली बहुत ज़्यादा टॉर्चर किया है। गन पॉइंट पर निकाह कराया, बहुत मुश्किल से उसको लालच देकर मैं यहाँ हाई कमीशन तक पहुँची हूँ कि मुझे सेव किया जाए, और हाई कमीशन में मैं अपनी मर्जी से रुकी हूँ, कोई फोर्स नहीं है मुझ पर। जैसे कि इन्होंने फोर्स किया हो मुझे कि आप यहाँ पर रुको, अपनी मर्जी से। हाई कमीशन में मैं जब तक रहूंगी जब तक दिल्ली में सेफली ना पहुँच जाऊँ। हाई कमीशन से मैं बाहर नहीं निकलूंगी।
पाकिस्तान क्या कहकर बनाया गया था? आपने पूरा यू टर्न ले लिया है, पहले आपका मौका कुछ और था, अब चेंज हो गया, स्टेटमेंट हो गया, चलिए निकल लेते। थैंक यू, थैंक यू।
Well, that of course was the woman speaking out there in Pakistan. She apparently, of course, had gone to a trip there, but her immigration papers were forcibly taken away. She was forced into a marriage, as we have been reporting and telling you. And of course, now she has sought repatriation.